Hello and welcome to round 13 of Grand Prix Kansas City. I'm Ben Swartz, joined here in the booth by Marshall Sutcliffe, and we have Patrick Cox on the left-hand side of your screen, facing off against Matthias Hunt on the right-hand side of your screen. Pat Cox on Malirapod, Matthias on Scapeshift. Both these players have 2 losses. This is an elimination match here, and Pat has started things off with a turn 1 Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, really solid start for Pat Cox here. It's one of the best one drops in the format, period. And he's got to be happy to have it in his opener and lead off. Now, no fetch land, though, currently in the graveyard, so it's not going to be making mana unless he has one here, which he does.
Boom, Misty Rainforest. Allow him to have 3 mana this turn if he needs it.
Yeah, and you know, one thing that you'll see pretty often from this deck is casting Birthing Pod on turn 2 with the 3 mana, paying the Phyrexian mana, and getting it in there. It's a really nice start if he can get it. He plays Temple Garden untapped. Let's see what he has here. As he's got a Voice of Resurgence in his hand as well.
Is he going to go for a Birthing Pod, maybe?
Looks like he's thinking it over. Oh, there's the 3rd mana.
Oh,
no.
Kitchen Finks.
Kitchen Finks. All right, that's going to get his life total back up and do dual work here for Pat. It's going to apply pressure to Matthias Hunt in the early stages of the game. Turn 2 Kitchen Finks, not bad at all as far as getting the beatdown plan going, but also it's a great sacrifice target if he does have a Birthing Pod or can find one soon. Just a simple land drop here for Matthias Hunt, nothing else.
And now back to Pat's turn. He's going to attack in there with the Kitchen Finks. Drop Matthias to 17. And he's pondering his other options. We know he's got that Voice Resurgence in his hand. Is he going to cast that here? Yep, and he'll add that 2/2 to the board. Matthias might want to respond here if he's got an instant that he wants to cast. Maybe
he could remand it. He could also.
Yeah, looks like he's going to crack his Misty Rainforest and pulls that remand to the front of his hand. Looks like he wants to remand that here. Just buy a little extra time. He doesn't have all that much ramp in his hand, which what you'd expect from the Scapeshift deck.
Yeah, it's really the deck's entire focus, though. His deck is a little bit different in that it also has the Primeval Titan to help ramp and act as a win condition in and of itself.
Yeah, so remand comes down. That's going to put Voice of Resurgence back in Pat Cox's hand. Matthias is going to draw a card. And Pat's going to crack a fetch land here, and he can recast that Voice of Resurgence, thanks to the Deathrite Shaman. He'll fetch out a basic forest, remove the Misty Rainforest in Matthias' graveyard, and recast the Voice of Resurgence.
All right, so good pressure here from Pat Cox. Nothing combo-y off the start, but 5 power on the battlefield plus an active Deathrite Shaman means that Matthias Hunt is going to be under some pressure to get something moving forward here.
Looks like Matthias did draw an Izzet Charm, so he's got the opportunity here to burn out that Voice of Resurgence if he wants to. Instead, he's going to first play a Halimar Depths.
I like that card.
Yeah, and maybe hold back. He's got a second remand. I know he's got a Serum Visions in his hand. He can kind of semi-ponder here, right? Look at the top 3, cast Serum Visions.
Without using an actual spell from his hand. Now, of course, he doesn't get to draw one of these cards. He's just reordering the yard, but still.
It's really powerful with fetch lands, Halimar Depths.
Very.
But Matthias here is going to cast, Izzet Charm on the Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, he doesn't want to make it even worse for him by killing that Voice of Resurgence and just taking even more damage next turn.
Pat's going to have 5 power this turn. And he's holding those cards pretty close to his chest. Can't quite get a good look at them. But thinking long and hard here about what he wants to do, if he wants to advance his board, if he wants to try maybe playing a Birthing Pod if he has it. Seems to have quite a few options. Just trying to decide what would be best here. Woodland Cemetery, and then attacks in for 5. That'll drop Matthias down to 11. Post-combat, Pat's going to cast something here.
What does he have?
What's it going to be? Birthing Pod. Okay, he's going to take 2, go to 14, and probably use the Birthing Pod here. Sacrifice Voice of Resurgence, get an elemental token, go find a 3-drop. What 3-drop do you think he's going to get? Another Kitchen Finks?
I mean, if he's just on the straight beatdown plan, that's certainly an option for him. He's got a lot of choices, though. He's just going to get an Eternal Witness to grab back that Deathrite Shaman. So either way, he's just applying more pressure to the board. This applies slightly more pressure. It also turns off Snapcaster Mage if Matthias Hunt is running those. You know, I don't know if he is. I don't know if Pat knows if he is. But there's a, you know, it represents 2 damage to turn as well for at least the next couple of turns.
Yeah, threatening perhaps 9 points of damage on this following turn. Serum Vision comes down for Matthias. He's going to draw one of the cards he actually knew about. Look at one he knew about and one fresh one. Both of them on the bottom. And no access to green mana unless he wants to take 2 here off the Stomping Grounds, which he does, so he'll have the ability to cast Sakura Tribe Elder and have a blocker for one of Pat's creatures.
All right, so slowly moving his game plan forward here is Matthias Hunt, though he's got to be worried at this point, facing down a pretty well-developed board and an active Birthing Pod with a Kitchen Finks already on the battlefield as well. We currently don't see the other pieces of the combo, but if Pat has, you know, like a Malira here, he can just sack the token to go get Viscerous here and gain a ton of life, and that would effectively put the game out of reach for Matthias Hunt.
Gavany Township comes down.
That's another plan that Pat can take here if he thinks.
So is that 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11? -1 blocker. Three mana is going to bring down Vargas.
Vargas the Scar Stripe. That's a new one. It is a sack outlet here. So and there's a 1-drop, so
now,
he can go off right now, right?
Get infinite life.
Yeah, he's going to attack first before doing it.
Maybe not, because...
Can he not? Can he sack the Deathrite Shaman to go get Malira?
Yeah, if Matthias happens to have a Lightning Bolt here, he could bolt the Kitchen Finks.
I see.
Maybe what Pat was afraid of, but no, Malira comes into play, and
all right,
that's going to be infinite life for Pat.
So Pat has the read. He's going to attack first, though. He still needs to beat Matthias. This will put him effectively out of range of ever losing.
Sure.
But, you know, these attacks are still important because he needs to
But I don't see a way that Matthias can crawl out of an infinite life situation.
All right, block your token. Sack my Sakura Tribe Elder. Kind of going through the motions here.
Okay, well, Matthias goes, as you said, gets a forest. I really don't know what he could have to defeat infinite life. I'm looking at the deck list. Even Prismatic Omen, he can deal a lot of damage, not infinite.
No. All right, so Pat Cox just passed his turn back because he's got lethal on the table. He has no pressure on him to do anything at this moment. All the pressure's on Matthias Hunt, and Matthias has nothing. It just has to scoop.
Okay, so Matthias Hunt takes the first game here in round 13 in Grand Prix Kansas City against Pat Cox. Or Pat Cox takes the first game against Matthias Hunt, Grand Prix Kansas City.
Gotcha. Taking a look at the Malira Pod deck here that Pat Cox is on, it's the most popular deck in the field. It's also the deck that put the most people into day 2 here. I got a chance to look at some of the numbers that our coverage writer, Nate Price, sometimes he's in the booth too, you'll see him in here occasionally. He had a game 2 metagame breakdown that he showed me, and Malira Pod was the most popular deck to make day 2.
Yeah, I mean, after Sam Party won with it in Portland, it's got to be on everybody's radar, especially with how powerful Voice of Resurgence is in the deck. I mean,
yes.
I would have considered playing it had I played this weekend.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that deck was already pretty good before Voice hit it, and Voice seems to have really pushed it over the top as one of the most popular and powerful decks available in Modern.
Makes it easier to pilot, right? Because you have these more powerful creatures. I don't know. I think I've seen more games the Meliripod deck win by attacking than comboing.
I have too. I was actually having a discussion with Nate about that because, he was calling it a pure combo deck, and I was like, well, actually, it's like pretty even. Like what they do is they set up the infinite combo that you have to defend against, and meanwhile they're casting quality creatures and hitting you, and it's just really, really hard to be able to hit both at the same time.
Yeah. On the other side of the table, we see Scape Shift deck from Matthias Hunt, and this is a little less combo based. It's got Primeval Titan in it. It's got Prismatic Omen. It can win without Scape Shift. And the nice thing about Matthias's version is it's very possible for him to just win by playing lands without casting Scape Shift, without casting Primeval Titan. Just play a bunch of mountains and Valakut.
This is much more similar to a build that we saw a few years ago in Standard when Valakut was kind of running the show there, and it absolutely it plays similarly. It can just play land drops, hit Valakuts, and kill you. It has plenty of mountains in the deck, and then it has ways to completely go over the top with Primeval Titan Scape Shift, especially in combination with Prismatic Omen, which makes all of your lands all basic land types. That means Valakut the Molten Pinnacle is a mountain. That's just insane when you get that going.
Yeah, Prismatic Omen just makes it so powerful.
They do have to dedicate a card slot to that doesn't do anything else to further their game plan, but it increases the clock significantly.
Well, looks like we're going to get a little sneak peek at Luis Scott Vargas versus Miguel Gatica. Luis has mulliganed to 3, I'm being told.
Mulligan to 3? Ugh. Yeah. Rashad says that Luis is down to 3 here. He is up a game, though. A couple of cards in hand and a couple of mana available as he ships a turn back. Let's see what Miguel has. A Torpor Orb. Okay.
Luis in a little bit of trouble here. Although he won the first game, so not completely out of the woods.
Let's pass a turn. No land drop for Luis and no play. And here we go. Dryad Arbor is going to pick up an Ethereal Armor.
Yeah, so this is the Boggle deck.
Bogle? That's how I say it.
They used to be quite popular for a couple weeks' time.
Yeah, and there's a Daybreak Coronet, and that is going to make a really nasty Dryad Arbor here.
Short work maybe of Luis. Luis has Thoughtseize here, though. Double Torpor Orb and Path to Exile.
All right, so I guess you just take that path away. Yeah. He's going to have to live with the fact that there's going to be a Torpor Orb on the battlefield for the duration of this game. Attack in again. Luis is kind of going through the motions, but he does get to cast that Thoughtseize and get a look at what kind of cards Miguel is bringing in out of the sideboard, and that's going to give him some more information for the next game.
Yeah,
Daybreak Coronet. Pretty insane. It has a extremely restrictive clause on it that says you can only put it on things that already are enchanted, but once you get it down, it's insane, and that was a rancor off the top there for Miguel, and Luis can't scoop those cards up fast enough. He had a little recon mission there to pick up some information about what Miguel might be up to post-board, but he really wasn't in that one. Let's take a look at the upcoming webcast schedule for the next, few months, really. Grand Prix Rimini is in Italy, Magic 2014 Limited, July 27th and 28th. And then we've been talking about this one all weekend, Ben, the World Championship and the World Magic Cup. They're going on the same week. It's going to be just an absolutely blockbuster week for Magic fans. July 31st all the way up to the 4th. We're going to see the finals on that same weekend for both events. Those are two of the best events of the year, and they're going to be together. That's in Amsterdam. That's going to be awesome at the end of the month. Grand Prix Warsaw is standard August 10th and 11th. The Magic Online Community Cup is going to be, that's a really fun one. It's a little bit more lighthearted, but it's also awesome because it's community members versus Wizards of the Coast employees. So there's some really great rivalries there. That's going to be August 30th and 31st. We're going to be broadcasting that from PAX Prime in Seattle. Grand Prix Prague is also M14 limited, August 31st through September 1st, so similar time frame as a community cup there. Grand Prix Oklahoma City is Theros limited, October 5th and 6th. I'm excited for that. I can't wait to see what Theros limited has to offer. I figure we'll have our run of M14 there, and then I'll be ready for Theros by then. Pro Tour Theros is in Dublin. It's Standard and Theros Draft, October 11th through 13th. Everybody loves Standard. That's going to be a great Pro Tour.
And if you love Standard, exciting. It's going to be a Standard Grand Prix in Louisville the following week.
Yeah, there it is, Grand Prix Louisville and Standard. All right, so players.
Back to the Patrick Cox versus Matthias Hunt match, and looks like Pat has a Thoughtseize. He's going to take a look at Matthias' hand, which includes a pair of Explorers, Scape Shift, Izzet Charm, and Serum Visions. So a little light on lands. No green mana.
Yeah, once he gets that Explorer going, those Explorers going, though.
Interesting to see that Matthias had the ability to search for like a breeding pool off that Misty Rainforest.
And he did not.
The mountain's not in play, but still. Curious. Well, Pat trying to decide what he wants to do. You've got to imagine that he's really considering between the Scape Shift and everything else, right? Like,
I mean, the Scape Shift's the most important card here, but the two Explorers are cards that he can use to get himself out of the situation. He's in Serum Visions as well.
He's going to take the Izzet Charm.
Interesting. So does that give us an indication about what Patrick Cox has moving forward? Maybe he's got a... Ooh, there's a green source right off the top from Matthias Hunt. So
Stomping
Patrick
ground.
Cox could have a lot of things that he wants, either a creature he wants to stick or a spell he wants to resolve. Let's see if the Explorer yields more lands. It does. Jeez. He had that mountain before, and he also picks up a Steam Vents here. He can get a little greedy, play it untapped, and play Serum Visions to help set up his next Explorer, and he's doing it.
Boom.
I like this play. Didn't quite see what he drew there, but man.
He drew a Pyroclasm, and he can set himself up to have another land coming to play next turn off that Explorer. Just like you said, Marshall, have a pretty explosive draw here. Be really close to the critical number of mana to cast that Scape Shift.
That's right. Patrick Cox decided to let him keep it in his hand. Pat could have another Thoughtseize in his hand potentially, and he wants to make sure that it resolves in case Matthias bricks on green mana, plays his land, and just says go.
Sure. That would make sense if he's got a second Thoughtseize here.
Yeah.
Well, go back to Pat's turn. He's going to play a Woodland Cemetery. 2 mana is going to allow him to cast Cartel Aristocrat.
Pretty unimpressive at this point. It does represent a repeatable sack outlet for a potential combo, but he can't be super happy about it.
Search for tomorrow
too. Man, and he's got his natural land drop in hand as well with that mountain we saw earlier. So not too bad. He's really gotten out of this nicely, Matthias Hunt has.
He's the ability to explore here. If he gets another land, that's going to be 6 lands, 1 land away from being able to Scape Shift out Pat Cox on the following turn. So here comes down Explore. It's going to allow him to draw a card and play an additional land. So if he draws a land here, does look like he did, a Scalding Tarn.
There's a Scalding Tarn in his hand.
Play that and say go. He's 1 land away from having the magic number of 7 to be able to deal Pat Cox 18 damage from Valakut.
Now let's see if Pat has any way to interact with Matthias Hunt's hand here.
Cartel Aristocrat comes in. Matthias falls to 13 life. 3rd land from Pat. It's going to be an Overgrown Tomb. 3 mana comes down. Eternal Witness to get back Thoughtseize, although...
But he can't cast it this turn.
It might be a little late.
You see that emphatic rip, because if it's a land, he's good to go. It's not. He's got double Pyroclasm, though.
You see Matthias Hunt sit up in his chair.
Yeah, he's going to be able to take out that Eternal Witness, but that's it with the Pyroclasm.
Yeah, is that something he wants to do here?
I mean, he's got Scape Shift otherwise, which doesn't kill Pat Cox, so you got to figure he's going to want to hold on. Now, remember, though, he knows that Pat Cox has that Thoughtseize in his hand, so that scape shift is not long for the world. Is there anything he can do with it here to help set him up better for the next turn?
I mean, he could scape shift here for sacrifice 5 of his lands to go get Valakut. It's not going to do it. Like, he's got the Scalding Turn in play that he can sack. He might want to just get, like, maybe double Valakut and a bunch of mountains and hope to peel. It seems real risky.
It does.
But he knows that that scape shift is going to be gone. Because Pat has that Thoughtseize he bought back.
So the question is just, can he get a useful resolution out of this scape shift now? Or does he just make Pat, just say, sure, I guess you're going to lose 2 life and we're going to trade a card for a card. All right, so he's going to do something. He's going to sack 3. He's left himself with 3 mountains here.
1 Valakut, and
remember, this is a key distinction here. Matthias Hunt is not playing the Cryptic Command version of this deck.
Yeah.
He's got plenty of mountains floating around in there, and he now has an active Valakut. Any mountains from here on out are going to start lightning bolting things. So this is setting him up pretty nicely. He's not under a ton of pressure at the moment. He's going to take 4 and drop to 11 here. Pat Cox has to feel pretty happy, though, that Matthias Hunt didn't rip a land, because if he had, it would have just been over right there.
Yeah, Matthias setting himself up to be able to deal some damage off that Valakut, but you have to think that, like, he's still pretty far away from being able to kill Pat. Pat here, though, is going to cast Thoughtseize. It's going to drop him down to 11, bringing him 1 mountain closer to being dead.
That's right. The difference between 13 and 12 is pretty huge here. Again, Matthias Hunt, though, has ways to get multiple mountains onto the battlefield in 1 turn. He can draw another scape shift. Primeval Titan also would do it.
Well, Pat gets in for 4, drops Matthias down to 9.
This is going to be a close one.
Yeah.
These next few draw steps for Matthias Hunt are going to be huge. Cards he wants to see, Primeval Titan scape shift. He'd also love to see, like just a Serum Visions or something to try to set up, to dig through his deck to try to find one of these big, powerful spells. He can Pyroclasm next turn if he wants. That can take out the Eternal Witness, but it's going to get sacrificed to the Cartel Aristocrat, and that's going to get protection from red, which will let it survive.
So Pat deciding here what he's going to do. He wants to put max pressure, but he knows about that Pyroclasm, so he can't really add any 2 toughness creatures to the table.
All right, so let's see what Matthias has drawn. Another Valakut. Wow, that sets up his future draws even better, but he is not long for this world as it sits.
Pyroclasm going to take out the Eternal Witness. Valakut comes down, passes the turn back to Pat, sitting at 9 life.
Doesn't look like Pat's going to be able to put up anything monumental this turn to finish off Matthias, so he's going to get at least 1 more draw step, potentially 2.
Okay, well,
let's see what this is. Is this a Finks? What is this? It is a Finks,
ooh,
so back
big.
up to 13. That's huge. Now, Matthias Hunt's, big spell draws are still alive.
Yeah, Primeval Titan still wins here.
Especially with 2 Valakuts out now. That's not what he wanted.
Prismatic Omen here allows any land or a fetch land to win the game immediately. Any land to deal a bunch of damage to Pat Cox. Each land represents 6 damage. Malira off the top, though, makes it so Pat can gain infinite life, and I think we're headed to a game 3.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, Pat won.
Wins.
Yeah, so Pat actually wins 2-0. Matthias Hunt put himself in the best position he could to get out of that situation, but it was not enough, as Pat Cox again just played some guys. Now, he did actually get his combo naturally at the end there, but he also had Matthias Hunt down to 1 draw step left before he was dead.
It just shows as a coverage guy, I really just want to watch more Magic and see game 3.
It was a hopeful game 3. Welcome back to the booth. Marshall Cyclist with Ben Schwartz here, and we always love to see a game 3, but Pat Cox at 10-2 now has put himself in a nice position as well, with just a few more rounds to go in the Swiss portion here.
Yeah, just 2 more rounds to go. Anybody's game. Maybe Pat has the opportunity, depending on his tiebreakers, to win the next one and be able to draw into the top 8, but we'll be bringing you coverage all the way down to the top 8 and then through the top 8 here, right here, from Grand Prix Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. This is going to
Yeah.
be sweet. I'm really curious to see what the makeup of the top 8 looks like as far as deck lists go as well. We've been talking about this throughout the course of the weekend, Ben. It's a wide open format. There's a ton of decks. I got a chance to look at the metagame breakdown